At a speech before the John F. Kennedy School of Government at Harvard, Department of Homeland Security Secretary Jeh Johnson addressed the issue of illegal immigration and border security. Now, in this speech, he addressed a number of issues, but of course, for the purpose of our report, we'll just focus on the aspect pertaining to illegal aliens and border security. The Secretary of Homeland Security, responsible for agencies such as U.S. Customs and Border Protection, U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services, he is therefore the top dog responsible for the issue of immigration, illegal immigration, and border security, as well as interior enforcement. During his speech, he stated that there are over 11 million illegal aliens. Of course, this is highly disputed by many experts, including myself, who believe there are vastly more. It's unknown, but it's believed to be over 30 million. And in his statement, he also states that of the 11 million that he acknowledged, that over half have been here in the United States for over 10 years. Now, I find that most interesting considering that then Chief of the Border Patrol, David Aguilar, back in 2006, 2007, also used that same number of 11 million illegal aliens. So clearly, if those 11 million were illegal then, why would they be anything less than illegal today? And those numbers have vastly grown. And he then goes so far as to say they have licenses to drive, they go to school, and they can even practice law in California. In essence, what he's saying is because they can do all these things, that puts them on the same ground as citizens. Now, keep in mind that the law states that if you are here and you have your visa to enter the United States, that means you have entered with inspection, you therefore have permission. You also have to have permission to work. You have to have a work permit. In essence, what DHS has done is created a special class because it allows these individuals to not only violate U.S. immigration law, but he's also saying that they don't have to have work visas. So if you're here legally, you do have to have work visas, and yet they're not required to do so by being illegally in the United States, having entered without inspection at a U.S. port of entry. Let's go to the video on some of this because it's just bizarre what he says.
The immigration issue is, without a doubt, the hardest issue I have worked on in government. And I've worked on a lot of tough issues. A lot of people feel very, very strongly about the immigration issue, as they should. I'd like to tell audiences that immigration policy must be two sides of the same coin. On the one hand, we want to reckon with, acknowledge the estimated 11 million undocumented in this country. More than half of the undocumented population in this country has been here for more than 10 years. And millions of them have, in effect, become integrated members of society. They go to school with us. They have driver's licenses. They have kids who are U.S. citizens. They have kids who are lawful permanent residents. California Supreme Court says that an undocumented person has a right to practice law in the state of California. They're not going away. So, do we insist that they live in a state of ambiguity? Or do we reckon with this population and give them the opportunity to get on the books and be accountable? The President and I want to offer a DACA-like program for adults who have been in this country for 5 years, who have kids, who are citizens or lawful permanent residents, and who pass a background check. That is our DACA program that we announced in November 2014. There's also a border security element to immigration policy and enforcement, and there has to be. We don't have open borders, but we have the obligation to enforce the law consistent with our priorities. Our priorities are public safety and border security. So while the number of deportations in the last several years have gone down dramatically because I've told our immigration enforcement personnel to focus on the convicted criminals, we have a border security obligation to return people after they've gone through the process, they've gone through the litigation process, they've litigated their asylum claims, and they have been ordered deported by a court, and if they are priorities, we have to send them back. Is it pleasant? Absolutely not. But as long as we have the obligation to enforce the law, we must enforce the law. We can't have open borders. I know that disappoints many people, but we can't have open borders.
Okay. So on top of this, he is also stating that, and he uses the typical tactics of the open borders supporters by saying that it is unpleasant to enforce our immigration laws. So on top of this, he uses the example of how many illegal aliens coming up here from Central America, and how one on the travel was impregnated, and he uses every which little tactic, and basically saying it's okay for this, and that they should not be deported, and that they're deported reluctantly. However, if we go to the law itself, and you notice most of these individuals, they do not like the term alien, but if we go to Title 8 United States Code, and this is at 1101 definitions, it states the term alien means any person not a citizen or national of the United States. So if that person is not legally here, they are here illegally. Now, that individual is not an immigrant, because any person not a citizen or national of the United States is an alien, whether a resident alien here with a green card, or blue actually, or here illegally. That doesn't change the fact they are aliens, whether illegal aliens or resident aliens. So any individual who is not here legally is not entitled to that said driver's license, is not entitled to that employment, is not entitled to funds through, whatever the agency is that is providing as such. The only thing they are entitled to do is be deported, to be returned to their native country. And yet, Jeh Johnson is encouraging more illegal immigration. And it is ridiculous, because this is a separate set of class that they have established. If you are here legally with inspections, you have to have a work permit. So they're saying you don't have to have any documents. You might as well just come in illegally, and it doesn't matter because you'll get that. And they use these terms like background checks. Well, how can you run a background check on a person that doesn't exist, that gives false information, when we all know, experts especially, that Mexico and the countries south and the countries outside of the Western Hemisphere are not going to provide information on individuals? And how can you run a background check on a person that doesn't exist? So there you have it in a nutshell. You have a secretary who refuses to enforce the law. You have top managers at CBP and ICE who refuse to enforce the laws. That is the purpose of their agencies. And they will turn the other cheek and allow the laws to be broken. And we wonder why we have a broken immigration system. They're not fixing the problem. They're making it worse and worse. And only now they're going to let anybody in this country, be they drug cartel member, alien smuggling organization, or human trafficker, terrorist, you name it. How can they run background checks on people that don't exist?